Welcome to Navigating the Aftermath, the podcast where we explore the journey of rebuilding and rediscovery after life storms. Join us as we delve into stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation, offering insights and inspiration to guide you through your own path of healing and growth. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Navigating the Aftermath. Today, we have a very brave, very courageous woman coming and sharing her story about what led to her separation and how it affects her motherhood. And she's a mom of a young child. I'm so thrilled to have you, Sarah, with me today. Thank you so much. I honor your courage and your bravery to come here and share your story in the public setting.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope that this story is inspiring for at least a couple people.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Could you please share what led you to the separation?
It's a long story, so we'll start at the beginning, I guess. What led me to the separation was that he finally hit me right before Christmas. So that was the final straw. The police removed him out of the house and he spent Christmas in jail, which was really tragic. I was looking forward to having kind of our first Christmas when our baby was born. She was only 10 days old. You know, the very first Christmas. So this is going to be like the, in quotes, real first Christmas. So that was really, really sad. He didn't punch me in the face, but a hit is still a hit. So yeah, that was the December 21st, the darkest day of the year. That was the day that we actually finally separated. Leading up to that, he would call me names and yell at me a lot. And so he ended up having an accident and he can't walk normally. He does have legs, but he can't walk properly now after the accident, and he got a brain injury. So I was actually wanting to separate him after our baby was 3 months old. I was terrified of being a single mom, and then I kept falling in love with him again, or like, oh, maybe he's gonna change, maybe he will, he'd give me breadcrumbs of like, see, I am trying, like, oh, he didn't insult me on this day, or he hasn't insulted me of this word for a long time, so I can see he's changing. So, but I did not feel supported during pregnancy, and then postpartum I really didn't feel supported. Yeah, the lack of support, I would actually say, was very close to abandonment for how vulnerable I was, which was a terrifying thing to be as vulnerable as I was. I think a lot of people don't enjoy vulnerability, but like, I hate it, or at least I used to, and I have been intentionally trying to get comfortable with being vulnerable for a couple of years leading up to pregnancy.
Yes, and you feel safe to be vulnerable, knowing.
Yeah, I didn't feel safe to be vulnerable, but it was to the point of not recognizing that fact and just like, absolutely not, will not go there. When you go through hard times, you really recognize the cracks in the foundation that were always there your whole life. They were so normal that you didn't recognize them. So the relationship was shaky the entire time, but it was very passionate. The lovemaking was amazing. Unfortunately, sometimes it was easy to forget about the bad things, and I still am very attracted to him. So when he smiles, I just melt a little bit, even if my heart is hurting. And yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's so understandable.
And he was so big before his accident. That was I just loved, like, how I felt in his arms, because even though there was emotional abuse the entire time, unfortunately, I had a lot of forgetting about it. And so like hugging him was just like so easy to melt into him. When you're so attached to your dreams, it's really easy to forget about the bad times because you want the good times so bad.
Yes, this is why trauma bonding is so strong, that there are so many different emotions and different feelings, and we basically become junkies of
Yeah.
this high, and then this is why lovemaking it's so amazing. And it's so easy to forget because our minds, they really want to erase the bad stuff. And we can understand process in theory. It's pretty obvious process, but then when being in the situation in marriage like this, it is so difficult to break that. And I applaud you for doing this and for separating and choosing your baby over the dream, because it's so easy to, like you said, be he's becoming better, and if the person is injured, the initial instinct is to take care of them.
So then after his injury, I completely forgot about me wanting to leave him. And I was doing everything to get him better. And living a brain injury is really hard to deal with. If anybody's listening to this that has someone that has a brain injury, it's really, really hard. And I hope that you already have support. And I want to say, just in case they don't have the resources yet, the Schurig Center in Larkspur is a really fantastic resource if you don't have things in place yet.
And now we're talking about Northern California. If you're in Northern California, in San Francisco Bay Area, this is the place.
Yeah. Before the accident, his yelling would happen once a month, every 5 weeks. And then the rest of the time was pretty good, fluctuating between pretty good and fantastic. Wow, this is how I want things to be all the time. So it was kind of easy to forget. And then after his accident, once he finally came home, the yelling at me increased to every day, but it was less intense because I could just walk out of the room. So he would say you're worthless, or you're so lazy, you need to get a job. Just really uncalled for, not true things. So it increased to every day, but the intensity was less because I just walked out of the room and just okay, I'm not taking this right now. But yeah, so I started trying to get his family to come help, was taking care of him while having a newborn. Well, shoot. So that's way too much for any one person to handle. And so I was desperate and literally shaking and literally running inside of my own house to accommodate everybody. I was very close to collapse. And then it just escalated. It got worse and worse. There was a lot of arguments about him wanting to drive and me saying, no, that's not safe. And then finally one day he did drive, and I called the police on him because I really thought that was the right thing to do. But then the police said he was fine and they helped him inside of his car. So then I was like, okay, hands off, you can drive now. But then he injured himself twice from driving. He fell out of his car and had to have neighbors help or the police help. It was just a nightmare circus show. And I'm still taking care of my baby, and taking care of my baby was going on the whole time. And so then he pushed me, and then that was a really big shock of he crossed a line, the physical, because there's some kind of dissociation, even though he was yelling at me and I was crying a lot because of the yelling. I didn't think that he would ever hit me, or I didn't think it was going to go there. And then when it actually did, I was just completely shocked. And then he hit me because we had an argument about him bringing alcohol into the house, which not okay. Yeah, so that was when it ended. But somehow I still had hope that he was going to change. Even after we separated, I was committed to not living with him until I saw a real change. So we have been separated for 8 months now, almost. But I still, yeah, there was So finally I started coming to like acceptance of he is never going to change. He doesn't have the capacity to change. I started understanding the complexities or the emotional handicap of complex trauma, which anybody that relates to my story, I would say has complex trauma. I now understand that I have complex trauma, which is very worth doing research to understand what that is. And now I understand that he also has complex trauma, except I wanted to work on my stuff. I already was working on my stuff, and he wasn't. He just absolutely was like hardcore no, which was just unworkable.
So that's been a lot for a person to handle with everything that's been going on. And you mentioned that you had a lot of fears of becoming a single mom. What were those fears? And if you have been a single mom for 8 months, do you see these fears manifesting, or most of them were irrational?
No, I'm walking through the fears. Well, I understood very well the damage that happened to me because of the absence of my dad. My parents divorced when I was 6. I understood, the damage that happened just from like him not being present and him being checked out when we were together. So I was really afraid of that happening to I knew how hard my mom worked, and I didn't want to work that hard. I don't think that I have the capacity to work that hard. I have an invisible illness. I have fatigue that is better right now, but anytime I am way too stressed out or take on too much work, which like has been a constant for a year and a half, I can see it creeping up again. I can see my evaporation of energy happen, and it's terrifying because I have so much on my shoulders. I can't rest. I can't. So it's scary to me to be forced to do what my mom did. She had 3 jobs most of my life, and she was a super mom, but there was also a cost or a tax, and a lot of my complex trauma actually came from her. So it's a really tangled mess, but I'm starting to understand my own story, and I didn't want to repeat this for my baby, which now I'm walking through it and I'm navigating. How am I going to figure this out? It is terrifying, and I'm being forced to strengthen my faith or my trust, which is very challenging for me.
Could you please name 3 to 5 fears that just came rushing to you when you realized this is the path for you for some phase of your life? So when you had this thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a single mom, what were the 3 to 5 fears that pop up?
How am I going to do this? What if I can't? Like my energy levels don't allow me to work. It was a fear. What traumas is my baby, gonna absorb from this? But now, well, in this moment, that's not a fear. I was scared of what she was going to take in from him, my husband. Yeah, but now in this moment, I'm actually praying that he will leave our lives, and I'm going to have to work hard to be really conscious about teaching her to recognize healthy men, which my mom didn't do. She did not teach me to recognize healthy people, healthy men. So that's one advantage, that I'm already there. I'm already committed to my own personal growth. It's a passion to continue to learn and continue to evolve and talk about it and talk healthy personality traits and what's right for you, staying in line with your intuition. So that's something that I have that my mom didn't, and that's going to be a front and center piece of our family. And I have grown so much that I am in belief that it's possible that maybe I will meet somebody better. And I keep clinging to the idea it's possible to meet someone better, and that man can be her dad. And I can still have a healthy family. It's not going to be her birth dad. but it can still be a healthy, happy family. That's the better choice right now.
Yes, and also for all the fellow single moms, well, first of all, like I shared before, I don't like being called single mom. It's like labeling somebody. I really like independent mom, strong mom, because we gotta be much stronger than we were before. And then, yes, even though you don't find somebody, and I truly believe we all deserve to find somebody who's wonderful, who's kind, who is honest. Meantime, you and your child, you are the family. And a child deserves to have healthy parents. And if the child has only one healthy parent or a parent working towards being mentally healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, that child is very, very lucky and very fortunate. I just wanted to share my perspective on that. You mentioned that you were lacking as a child of a single mom several things, one of them being educated about what healthy relationship, healthy people look like. What are other things that you see as a mom from the perspective of a mom, but knowing that you are a child of a single mom? What were other things that were lacking that you working towards bringing into your family?
I'm not sure that I understood the question, but what's coming forward for me, and then you can ask the question again. My mom's stress levels really affected perception. I took her stress level personally. I didn't understand that it was stress and caused me to overcompensate or develop a perfectionist type of personality, which worked fantastic for getting good grades and getting me to be the good kid and becoming a high achiever later in life, and like always getting employed and always getting the jobs I wanted. In that way, it worked really well, but like a self-acceptance way, becoming a perfectionist or having close friendships or relationships, that was a negative impact. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. So the question was, what were you lacking as a child, and now you're a mom, and it might be more aware of that, and you're working towards bringing, like you mentioned, I'm going to make the healthy relationship and education about what that is in the center of your family. And I was wondering if there are any other aspects that were lacking for you, and you saw your mom being a single mom, that you want to change. You want to basically break this chain and be a different mom.
So what was lacking was presence. Due to her stress levels, she didn't have the practice or the ability of staying present in her body, staying present to us and what our needs were, and finding solutions when our needs conflicted. Very often my needs were conflicting to her needs, and I was demonized for it, which kind of paved the road for me becoming so attracted to this most recent husband. Yeah, so presence was lacking. And that is a conscious practice that I've been working on for a very long time, is to be present to myself. So this is kind of what I teach. So it's being present is skill. I think you're excellent at it.
Thank you.
But a lot of people are not. And I notice in our society that there's an addiction to escape. Whatever escape means, there's an addiction to TV, an addiction, feel better fast, gotta feel better now, don't worry, just snap out of it. Or shopping is an addiction, food, exercise. There's so many different varieties of addictions. And if you reduce it all down, it's just an addiction to escape whatever you're feeling, because the emotions that we don't like are pretty uncomfortable to feel. But it's a requirement to feel those feelings to get centered and then present. And through there, you can go to the much higher, better feeling emotions that most of us like. So I'm committed to evolving in that and getting better and better. That's something that my mom didn't even know, like that wasn't a thought
Yes, and on my part, yeah, thank you for the compliment. It definitely is a skill. I was not born with that by any means. And it's a skill that have to one has to practice several times a day. And what I recommend the clients that I started working with, ask yourself, what do I want right now? Just keep
Right.
yourself present and keep yourself tuned in with who you are, what you are. Even if it's, I want to go and lay down, I want to drink water now, I want to go to the bathroom now, really just instinctual, mundane things. But just being aware and train the mind being, okay, I'm asked the question, I have to come up with an answer. And just like training the mind as a puppy, always picture it as a puppy. That is the key. And it doesn't happen overnight. And like you said, many people want to escape because it's so much easier. Some gaming or hopping from relationship to relationship. And yes, the society is like this. You've been single for X number of years. Something got to be wrong with you. Why don't you go and find somebody pretty much right away? And we see it in movies a lot that it's not okay for some reason to grieve your relationship that ended or just be all right on your own. And the majority of movies, they portray a woman and her children cannot form a family. And I just so strongly disagree with that. And I honestly don't really have much respect when people jump from marriage to another relationship. And this is a big tell when people do this.
Sometimes they do, yeah. I do believe in like it was just meant to be, and really uncommon stories like that. But yeah, often it is a practice of escape, and it's not for me to judge.
I get really passionate about these things because I'm really a women's advocate and really feel protective. So, what are your immediate challenges that you're facing as a mom of a very young child during this, let's call it transition?
Yeah, well, I'm currently looking for work, and so the financial piece is a really big stress right now. So that's a big challenge, is navigating the financial piece. I got so yeah, I feel like my story is like kind of an accordion. There's a lot of different pieces. So this piece of me looking for work now actually goes back like 4 years. I just one day I got home from work. I had a really, really demanding, really physically demanding job. I got home from work and I just collapsed. I never got sick. Like I never broke a fever or got congested or coughing and sneezing, but my life force just evaporated to the point that it was painful to do anything. And I was never clinically diagnosed, but I am named this fatigue because I don't know what else it would be. A lot of people that had Lyme disease believe that I also had Lyme, which I could have. I read the book Believe Me by Yolanda Grant, I think is her name. The title of the book is Believe Me. And she was a supermodel and she was diagnosed with Lyme, and her life force completely evaporated. And I 100% identified with this story. And that was helpful to me. I gave this book to my mom and I was like, you have to read this. This is what I'm going through. It was after my mom read that book that she understood and she was scared, and she started to support me financially by gifting me massages or gifting me like therapeutic things. Right now I'm super into doing floats, which is like a highly condensed Epsom salt water, and you just lay in the water and you float, and it's incredible. So my mom has been really generous in gifting me different kinds of therapeutic things, which I'm really grateful for. So I wasn't able to return to my old job. And then I took about a year of focusing on my healing, and I did heal myself to the point that I was so healthy I got pregnant. And then I had this amazing baby, and then he got in the accident. And then focusing on his healing, which he like threw in the trash almost daily. So that was like another year. So now I'm looking for work, but the energy piece is not consistent. It still fluctuates, and that gives a lot of fear to me. So I'm trying to navigate that, and I have to live on my own. I cannot live with relatives. Like emotionally, I like think I might die. I mean, maybe I won't because I've already been through so much that I thought I couldn't tolerate, but I have to live on my own. So this is a really big stress. The financial piece is where I'm at right now.
And how do you balance emotions with the needs of your baby during this time?
I go for walks every day. That calms me down. I have several self-care practices built into my day. Normally I take a shower as soon as she falls asleep, but today I'm doing this interview. And I have my own therapist that I meet with weekly. So that's a self-care thing. I also journal, and I also take at least usually 10 minutes to meditate every day. So all of those help balance out. And then I also do my best to feel my feelings. So when she's awake and I'm feeling angry or frustrated, I let it be okay. And I don't try to change. I don't try to snap out of it. I just let it be okay. And that, I will say, is really hard because she's reacting to my emotions, which increases the stress, that the like struggle increases. But I'm committed to not bulldozing myself. And however I'm feeling is showing up. It's important. And I'm not gonna stuff it down and then force it to get stuck in my body and show up as some other pain or issue later.
Yes, and this is so challenging to do, and we're conditioned to stuff it in. And it's interesting. I have a friend, and she's my role model for how she goes through grief, and she lets herself cry whenever she feels crying. She never suppresses anything, and she's in almost her 80s. She's relatively healthy considering her age, and it's so amazing that she lets herself do it. She cries when she wants to cry. She laughs when she wants to laugh. And she shares what she wants to share in the moment. And then if she's in the public space, she feels okay doing this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that as well. And showing the kids that it's okay, because when they're out of their toddler age, when they go to school, all of a sudden, it's not really okay to scream when you want to scream. It's not really okay to cry when you want to cry. You have to be aware of other people, and it's great. But how can we be aware of other people and not offend anybody, but still and really honor our feelings? That is so amazing that you doing this with your baby. And it sounds to me that by doing this, you showing her it's not about you, sweetie. This is me feeling the feelings, and she will be getting older and growing up with an understanding it's okay. It's more than okay. It's so natural to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And such a beautiful gift that you're giving.
Thank you. Something very important that I hope to teach her. I hope to teach her to feel it, whatever is showing up. And I also hope to teach her to not take my stuff personally, which she might, but as she gets older to be like a teenager, then, we'll be able to talk about it. And all you can do is your best. And I think every parent hurts their child in some way. So she's going to have healing to do. But I think the detail of difference is that we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be okay for her to tell me how I hurt her. So this is something important to teach her, to just feel it. It's okay. Don't try to hide it. Recognize that sometimes some people are very uncomfortable with emotions and it doesn't feel good to you to be around them. So maybe leave, but don't suppress your feelings.
And I remember that you shared with me in our other conversations when your husband left, he moved out, that your baby instantly stopped crying, and she felt much better, and that was a big moment for you to realize that you made a right decision.
Yeah, it's sad that she got better. Yeah.
Are there any unexpected hurdles you've encountered so far that you wish somebody had prepared you for?
I wish that I didn't need to learn this lesson of going through this painful relationship, but I don't know that anybody could have prepared me for it. I wish that I had done more healing when I was younger, but you know, there's also that maybe I wasn't open to it, so I couldn't have done the healing. Understanding complex trauma is it's a really confusing, very interesting and critical thing. When I started to learn about it and understand, like, oh, like all these attachments. And yeah, I wish that a therapist, because I did do therapy when I was younger, I wish that I had better therapists that recognize complex trauma. And I will say, for any coaches, if you have a client that just like seems to go in circles, or they like say they're going to do the work and then they don't do the work, and they make like tiny strides but not really, and they're just like, you're thinking in your head, what do you actually want? These people have complex trauma. And it's interesting for me to recognize that for whatever reason, the clients that I attracted had complex trauma. So I just want to share that because it's such a confusing thing.
That's very, very important. I agree. This complex PTSR and it's
Complex PTSD.
PTSD. Yeah, I mixed Russian and English because I have a privilege to being bilingual. So I read the latest studies and books in both languages to understand it better. Thank you for bringing it up. This is a huge topic. With all of this going on, what impact is the separation having on your relationship with your child? And how you're working to maintain stability?
Stability is like a daily goal. I am really trying hard to build stability. So right now, the stability, this is something that just came up in my own therapy session. The stability that I have right now is I'm doing a good job of preparing meals on time and meal prepping. So I feel like that tiny piece, tiny or big piece, is in place of meals and meal prepping and making sure there's a meat and a vegetable, and the flow of meal preparation is pretty good. So that piece of stability is anchored. And then the stability of going on walks every day. So I'm trying to increase the stability every day. And now I'm focusing on the weekly pieces because I feel like the major daily pieces are mostly in place, which I'm grateful for. And I guess proud of myself because it's hard work on my part.
Yeah, that's a big win. I want to celebrate with you.
Thank you. So now I'm focusing on the weekly things that I want to have in place, like story time at the library or play dates. And then the next giant piece would be the work aspect or the financial stability. That's something that I'm working on. I feel like it has a lot of moving parts that go into it. Like I need to have a babysitter. Okay, so it's just, and then, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. But I feel like the perception of my baby is that she is experiencing stability because I am fairly consistent in how I react. I'm always here when she wakes up. She has her play areas. She has 2 play areas in the house, in the living room and in our bedroom. And she's very confident to go in either area and get the toys. So I feel like her experience is fairly stable experience.
Yeah. It's also, yeah, celebrating these wins. I'm so glad that you brought it up. They're like, yeah, good job. I was like, yeah, pat yourself on the back because it is something that might be mundane and simple and small. When you're doing it all by yourself, that it's big deal when you can shave off several minutes from meal prepping and really put it into playing with your baby, that is a huge win, because this 10 minutes can
It's
something that,
huge.
yeah, it's huge, because this is might be something that she remembers, maybe not for the rest of her life, but the feeling will stick with her that my mom was present with me. I was the most important thing for my mom, for that.
Mhm.
And kids don't understand time, so they understand the feeling, and it's huge. It's tremendous. I'm yeah, so proud of you and want to celebrate this. It's
Thank you. And
um,
then I've returned to some of my good habits that I kind of forgot about. So I used to have this very tiny journal that I keep track of all the good things that happen throughout the day. The point is to help with manifestation, but I call it my book of good things. So it's anything that you witnessed, enjoyed, liked, achieved, that happened to you, that you did, anything good. Write it down in this little book, and more good things will happen. And on the very last page, I write goals that I hope will have been accomplished by the end of that journal. So if I ever get a free 5 or 10 minutes, I'll look to the back. What's one of my goals? What can I do? 5 minutes of effort to go in that direction, and then write that down. So I've recently returned to that, which has helped me. I, I don't, I want to add this right now because it's coming up in my head. Before my husband, I was such a positively focused person. Sometimes I had my negative emotions or emotions that I didn't like, but for the most part, like, I had good things happen in my life. Several people in my life called me lucky, which I didn't like, because if you're good at manifesting, you know what's happening and you know that it's not luck. You know that you did it. But a lot of people would call me lucky. And then once we moved in, it just seemed to downward spiral. And now that we're separated, he's in his home country right now, traveling, and so much bad stuff has already happened to him and his family. And I just think it's crazy that he's like addicted to this really negative point of attraction that I got sucked into. And so I'm noticing that I let go of a lot of my positive habits of, like, this book of good things, of writing down all the nice things that happen throughout the day. And so I'm returning to my good habits, and things are improving for me, getting lighter. Notice that I'm being hit on again, which is kind of fun. So I try to just like enjoy it when I notice. But I didn't recognize while I was with him what kind of negative hole I got sucked into. It was just so hard. Like, I didn't understand why things were so hard with him. And then now that I'm getting out of it, I realize, like, he has an addiction to this negative, this is how it is, life is hard, bad things happen. And finally I'm in this positive attraction point. I don't know. So now I'm back on the train of listening to manifesting videos, and this is helping me to build my vibration or point of attraction. So that's something that I'm working on, evolving, going through. I'm not sure of the right word, but
yeah, it sounds to me like it's a superpower of strength and resilience, because they're
resilience.
yeah, and sometimes it's much easier to go to your bedroom and put the covers over your head and pretend things don't happen and be in denial. It's much harder to step up and wake up every morning, get up, get dressed, and face life and really just keep going towards what you want. You're like following your intentions, fulfilling your goals, and showing up for yourself, for your kid. It is so hard, and I do see it as a superpower. So that's amazing that you experienced that and you shifted your focus to something that it's positive and that will help you. I want to ask you this question, and just chit chat about it. What do you see as a toxic positivity? Because so many victims of abuse there at some point in their lives this toxic positivity taking place. How do you know the difference between toxic positivity?
I think that you'll get a knot in your stomach. Like you're like looking at them, they look happy, they are smiling, but you feel like this, like just kind of nauseous. That's where I feel it. I think toxic positivity is when you are addicted or you're with someone that is addicted to feeling good and they just completely bulldoze or bypass any negative emotions, whether you're expressing it or whether you're witnessing them. So, for example, I'm talking to a friend and I'm like, "How are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." And she starts crying. She's like, "It's okay, ha ha ha." And then starts washing dishes and starts making a joke. I would say that's toxic positivity because she's being funny. You're feeling inside that something is not right. And then on the other end, if you're sharing something and they're like, "Oh, well, don't worry, get over it. You'll find someone better. Things are going to turn around fast. Let's go get a drink. You just need to feel better." Like that's that's bulldozing. That's jumping away from what you're feeling. All emotions are important. We don't like to feel certain emotions, but every single emotion has an important message. It has an important role. And if we can learn to see each emotion as important and give it presence and space and time to express, we will get the message and the guidance that will guide us into the higher emotions that we like to feel or want to feel. But it doesn't happen fast all the time. It can, sometimes it can happen fast. But if you're trying to make it happen fast, that's toxic positivity.
Yeah. And I really love watching toddlers that they express everything. They have no filter. And then we lose that. And basically we just let me channel my inner toddler and have a tantrum for 2 minutes and then I feel much better, as opposed to shoving it in and then later on it manifests, like you mentioned, that in some illness. It's a very interesting topic, that because I heard from several people that I had conversations with that toxic positivity got them into ignoring the red flags in the beginning of their toxic relationship, abusive relationship. And they were saying, I was taught to look only on the bright side, only see good in people, and this is what I did. I basically saw the good and I ignored the bad. I pretended, like, again, the toddler playing hide and seek. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. Yeah. And that what got them into this. And so I've been, really thinking a lot about what actual toxic positivity is and how to stay positive even when, stuff happens every time in the world, in your friends, families, in your immediate family, in your extended family. Stuff happens. How to stay positive while acknowledging that, yes, that stuff happens. People struggle, and I still feel that I can keep my faith. Do you have anything that you do besides what you described and shared, that you are aware of what's going on and then you still find the way, find the strength to be positive, move forward, and have this trust in life that everything is happening for you and for your own good?
Well, I want to, you said toxic positivity and like ignoring the red flags, and as you were sharing that, I was like, I did that. I didn't recognize it in the moment, but yeah, I was so attached to like having a relationship and I wanted a baby so bad. And so that made me desperate for a relationship. And I did ignore lots. I can't say that I'm totally aware of what's going on in the world, actively do not pay attention. But when somebody tells me, like, obviously I know that there's horrible things happening in Ukraine right now, the giant things happening in the world. Everybody, I think, knows, because, like, how do you not? But I do not know what's going on. I do not watch any media. I do not inform myself on purpose. But if someone were to share with me their experience, I would listen. And I think it's a really, really fine line that is individual, and you have to understand your threshold or what you can tolerate and when to take yourself out of that situation. If you have, I have some people in my family that have kind of like lockjaw, and they need to like hammer in the negative things that are happening in the world, especially with the politics and the presidents, and they need to hammer into you like why the world is going to shit. And then those people, I don't take their phone calls if I'm not in a good space. If I can't tolerate that kind of stuff that they very often talk about, I'm not going to take their phone call right then. Or I might say, hey, I'm not in a good space. I can't really talk too long, but how are you? So like give myself an out before we really go down deep. I think you have to protect yourself until you know your strength and you know what you can handle and what you can't. It has to, nobody's going to protect you for yourself, or nobody's going to raise your vibration for you unless you pay a healer or something. Then they might, but hopefully they will.
For a short period of time, and then going back to
right. But you want it to sustain, and so you have to figure out how you can hold your own higher vibration. And maybe that is physical things like what you eat and exercise and the music or the fun things you do, but maybe it's the non-physical things like which people you talk to, how long you talk to them, what time of day, what time, what you pay attention to throughout the day, and whether or not you're physically feeling the inside of your body or if you're absorbed into what's in front of you or what's around you. I think all of it, everything affects everything.
What advice would you give to other moms who might be at the beginning of a similar journey?
I hope that you're not, and I'm sorry. Timers to get you through whatever next 5 minutes or whatever next 10 minutes work so well for me. Just like, okay, I'm going to fold the laundry for 5 minutes, or I'm going to clean for 10 minutes, or take a shower for 10 minutes. That's, if you're going through a similar situation, and you're feeling the level of overwhelm that I often feel, setting timers to get you through this next hour, next 24 hours helps me a lot. There is a way. You might not know the way yet, but there is a way. There are solutions. Definitely reach out to Dasha because she has a lot of resources. And if you think that you're in a toxic relationship, you probably are. If you suspect, then you probably are.
That's such a great advice. Yeah, I feel like if I heard similar advice, but also like you got to be ready, right? You might hear some people mean well, but again, how people say some stuff, even though their intentions are pure, sometimes doesn't land well. And I really appreciate you giving this advice to other fellow independent moms that, keep going. You're stronger than you think you are. That's what it is. That's just like enormous amount of strength comes out of nowhere. And I love wrapping up episodes with this recurrent question: how navigating this transition from being married to not being married let you view motherhood differently?
Well, I don't feel like I ever was married, even though technically I signed a marriage license certificate. I never had a wedding, which I was very resentful towards him. There was never any communication about lining things up. Which direction do we want to go together in the future? So very often I didn't feel like I was actually married, even though I wore a ring. He did buy me a pretty ring. And then motherhood, recognizing how deeply I want everything good for her and how I wish desperately to put her first, but recognizing that I have to be good. Because if I'm not, I can't give her what she needs. So navigating that, putting myself first versus putting her first, and how can I fill up my cup the fastest so that I can support her.
Yeah, that is huge. And just putting our babies, our kids' needs first, and then not forgetting about ourselves. That is such an important piece in the balance. And I really hope that the listeners, you found the Sarah's story very inspiring. And if you're going through something similar, please know that you are not alone. And please know that you are much stronger than you think you are. And you're very, very courageous and brave doing this. Not everybody can. And thank you, Sarah, so much for, again, stepping up, coming forward, and sharing your story with so much transparency. That it's amazing. It moved me so much. And I knew your story, but not in so much details. And it was very, very moving. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Navigating the Aftermath. Remember, no matter how challenging the journey may seem, you are not alone. Subscribe for more empowering stories, practical wisdom to help you navigate life's twists and turns. Until next time, keep moving forward with courage and conviction.